keep on kissing babies and hugging fat girls. You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son.
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch! What? It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
And you t-shirts are too tight too, Billy! And you book a match with me against Ryan Keelan! Look at me! I'm a total package! I will rip him apart! I'm pissed now!
Where to, Stephanie?
WrestleRoasts on ad-free shows and ATC. Welcome to WrestleRoasts. I am your host, Dan St. Germain. I'm here with Robert Karpeles, Scotty Chaplin, and Mike Warrens will be joining us a little later in the podcast, but joining us right now, he's been on the show before, friend of the pod. He's a former writer for WWE, and he's currently working on Dark Side of the Ring. Andrew Goldstein, everybody.
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk some wrestling.
I'm excited that you could be on the show, man, and to roast Goldberg, which will happen a little later in the show. I just want to get some pod business out of the way, folks. We got the roast of Hulk Hogan coming up, WrestleMania week, and I also want to talk about our Patreon roast for that week. Our next Patreon roast will be New Jack, same week as Hogan. So we're going to have the worst of the white people and the worst of the black people on the same week, guys. Everybody's getting it on both ends.
I like that I just found out about this live on the show, and now I have to prepare my will because there's no way we're going to survive a New Jack roast.
Yeah, it's like Hulk Hogan and New Jack are they're what racists think the other one is, like they are that. But yeah, we're going to be doing that, and just to get us going for it next week, show in hell, we're going to be watching New Jack, the Iron Sheik, and Honky Tonk Man shoot on the Chris Benoit death. It is on YouTube, and they do it from a motel, blackout drunk. There's a lot more to the video, but why not get ready for it?
Honestly sounds like the best way to shoot on it, though, right? It really sets the scene. It's like a murder mystery dinner,
But but the only way you can get this is by becoming a Patreon member, folks. And
also, I want to say our Teddy Hart roast that we did this week on Patreon is worth this month alone. I thought it was a really great episode. Not just the roast, but the whole episode was a lot of fun. So get the Patreon just for that.
Yeah, please. We need money. That's as honest as you're ever gonna hear a podcast.
That was a New Jack shoot right there, by the
way. All right, let's get to the 10 count. Number 1, is this WrestleMania worth getting COVID over? Since Goldstein is joining us on the pod, Andrew, by all means, take it away.
If they booked Lashley Lesnar, I would say maybe, but Lashley versus Drew, I'm waiting for my vaccine.
All right, Robert.
This WrestleMania isn't worth getting gout over. This feels like these were the only toys left in the bin, and you're trying to make the most of it. This WrestleMania build is, Andrew can relate. This is the most bizarre WrestleMania build I've ever seen. It's like Vince just now realized, WrestleMania is coming up in a few weeks. We probably should do something. And on the one hand, it's kind of nice because all these years of criticizing WrestleMania for just relying on part-time talent and has-been stars, you're getting what you asked for, guys. The majority of this show is going to be the current talent. So strap in for AJ and Omos against the New Day as the last thing you see before you die of COVID.
Well, and also it's 2 nights, and they're not telling you yet, at least, what's going to happen on which night. So you kind of have to buy a ticket for both nights. Otherwise,
Well, Scott,
you might not get the match you want, even though none of the matches are worth, anybody's time.
Well, Scott, let me get your opinion on, well, obviously we know you're not going to get COVID over WrestleMania, but this is
Brother, I think COVID is fake, and I think it's not worth it to go to this WrestleMania. How about that?
That started out as a Hogan roast and ended up as an AJ roast. I wonder if they're going to put AJ on, he's like, if you have COVID, I'll just lather holy water on you, but I'm not gay. I'm not gay.
AJ should start the night with a prayer and end the night with the prayer.
AJ should lead a faction of anti-maskers against the luchadors. Trying to
guys,
by any means necessary.
We got to go after the Christians if we're going after wrestling's most famous Jewish person later in the show. Coming up, Goldberg, the roast of Goldberg. All right, let's start out with the matches that we have. Roman Reigns versus Edge. Then we have Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. And the New Day versus AJ Styles and Omos. Asuka and Charlotte. The Bad Bunny match. The Firefly Funhouse. The Shane and Broad match. And that's it, I think. I don't know.
Almost feels like a good card.
Whoa! That was pretty
hot.
Good. Waiting in the wings. The sniper himself, Mike Lawrence, is joining us today. Mike, do you think this WrestleMania is worth getting COVID over?
No. I got the vaccine this week. I don't think it's worth going still. I think I'm visiting my family in Florida in April because I haven't seen them in over a year. I still don't think it is.
Man, I know it's not right, and I'm getting my first shot this Sunday, but I still kind of want to go.
And also is like suicidal at all times.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. He's like, I get to kill myself at WrestleMania. It's like it's the Tommy Dreamer. Everybody going to WrestleMania is Tommy Dreamer.
I think that's part of the allure. Like the card is kind of so-so, but the people watching, for the folks who had the debate of like, honey, we might die, but I have to see Dolph Ziggler defend his tag titles on night one. Like those are the people I want to be able to watch from a safe distance behind plexiglass at all times.
It's the Capitol riots. You want to freeze frame on all of their faces to identify who these people are that are paying money to.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe this is real, but we not only got a handicapper, but we got the best ever. So I got to ask, how are you so good at handicapping these games? I mean, 4-0, that's quite a streak already.
Well, let's talk about every pick I've given this year in the NFL as an example. 23-8. Every pick I've given this year. 4 weeks in the bag, 23-8. There's nobody in the country that can match what I do, but I always make sure, because anybody, Conrad, could make up anything. They could tell you and blow smoke and tell you, oh, I'm the greatest. But I am independently monitored and documented, so nobody could ever question what I say and go, I don't believe it. I send every pick to an independent monitoring and documentation service that has to get the pick before the game goes off and then publishes it after the game goes off so anybody can see what I gave. And those picks for the year, every NFL pick so far, 23-8. And I think it's because I do more homework than anybody else. The average guy or gal watching this podcast, they don't have time. They have a career, they have jobs. They might read the newspaper or go online and see something, but they don't have time 80 hours a week to study the games. That's what I do. And I have a crew of guys behind me, my consultants, who every week we get together 3 times a week and they throw their ideas at me. I throw my ideas at them. And then I pick the final 5 plays on Saturday and Sunday in college and pro football. So, I've got a great team behind me too, but we're all doing together hundreds of hours of homework. So you don't have to. It's all at vegaswinners.com.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to vegaswinners.com right now. Let's win some money.
Sit outdoors and watch wrestling in the middle of a pandemic.
I think you're just comparing it to the Capitol riots because that's who will be at both things. I think, what Robert said was the night one aspect. Like that to me, I don't think WrestleMania should be 2 fucking nights because now you have to basically pay for 2 tickets to get a whole show because you don't know what matches are going to be on what night. They might advertise one.
But
And
think about what
you're
cool,
really fucking risking it, man.
Think about all the cool things they can do with Drew's sword, though. Come on, they could have
all
like
the non-violent things they can do with Drew's sword.
Well, maybe like the lightning from Bobby Lashley's entrance, like zaps his sword, and then he has like Braveheart face. I'm pumped, man.
I like the 2-night idea if the 2 nights gel. I'll get more into that later when we talk about Fastlane, though.
Yeah, as someone who's going to be live tweeting both of those nights and then podcasting after, I don't like 2 nights of WrestleMania at all. This is putting my marriage to the test. Thanks, Snickers.
Marriages.
Yeah.
That's actually the new name of this show. And then
I wonder
it's just Test and Stephanie getting married.
I wonder if like they're gonna lie about vaccination numbers like they lie about attendance every year. Like, we have
Dave Meltzer will find out the real numbers.
Oh, by the way, how weird was that PSA during Raw of the superstars telling you to get vaccinated? Like, how much money does Vince owe the government in taxes that he needed to cut a deal to do this weird PSA where you have fake athletes who you can't trust a word they're saying, looking into the camera and saying, "I'm Drew McIntyre. I pretend to fight for a living. Trust me, you need to get the vaccine in order to live."
Is it weird that Vince got the vaccine, but he got it in his ass? Is that weird?
I was gonna say, Robert, if it's one thing these guys are experts on, it's using needles.
Yeah. That should be the tagline. And then you cut to Vince jamming it into his ass.
Robert and Andrew, this is a question specifically for you two. You've both worked with Vince McMahon. You've both been in the room with Vince McMahon. Andrew, I think you've been yelled at by Vince McMahon before. Do you think this backstage story about Vince being really concerned for the well-being of everyone with COVID is true?
No.
Absolutely, yes. See,
You think it's true?
I'm going to disagree with you, Andrew, because Vince doesn't view them as people. They are commodities that he has spent time on and put them on television. So if they get COVID, it inconveniences him because now he has to change what his booking is.
I agree with that. It brings up an interesting point, which I've been making to my, the New World Order text chain all during quarantine, which is, in all seriousness, if I was Vince McMahon when COVID hit, like let's go like 2 months in, I would have been texting and calling Trump every single day, being like, dude, you are fucking over my business. Get your shit together. We're buds. Get your shit together. Stop being an asshole and control this thing because my business is going to shit. I'm about to have a WrestleMania in front of 8 fucking student wrestlers banging on hockey glass.
Yeah, but the other side of that is I think Vince looked at the numbers and realized they had their best financial year ever this past year because you don't have to tour. I think back to when I worked in...
Right. It was a convenient way to get rid of the live events, which they've wanted to do for the last 30 years.
You got rid of live events. You got rid of having to do trucking and routing and all that other nonsense. They're all based in one spot.
It's ruining their TV business. I mean, shows we've all worked on rate higher than Raw.
They've already had a great strategy of getting rid of the TV business, which is just booking angles no one will pay to see.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the combination of their booking in this pandemic year and the fact that COVID has destroyed the fan experience, the live feel of any of these shows.
But he is being kind of safe, right? I mean, technically, he could fill up the arena tomorrow if he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, he is doing it in pods, and
he's like, I mean,
yeah, but I think that's why they pulled back on the announcement for tickets because Dana White's holding a full venue show in Jacksonville, and then Vince suddenly pulled off the on sale date. So I feel like there was a meeting of, hey, could we pack Raymond James Stadium and show that we're patriots and we're over this? And somebody eventually probably sat him down and was like, just fucking stop.
The other thing to consider is that Vince is the ultimate germaphobe. So that's like the counterbalance to all this, which is he is probably completely frightened, completely scared to even come in contact with anybody who has sniffed COVID. So on that side, that's where I think like he is maybe giving that speech to the locker room, being like, guys, do not bring that shit into this locker room. I will slaughter you.
I mean, he is the most vulnerable group.
He's 1A. He's category 1A. He's over 65. He's got 2 torn quads. I think that's on the list of pre-existing conditions, right? He's an intravenous.
His body is a pre-existing condition.
I don't know, man. If I gave COVID to like Vince and Arn Anderson and Jake the Snake, my money's on Vince surviving out of those 3 guys.
Right. But Vince's mental state from having COVID would just be like a world war.
I think Jake would survive because he would just use enough needles anyway, and one of them would happen to have the vaccine.
Jake, you're right. You know what? You're right. Jake may be able to weather the storm. Like Vince is like, I've never felt anything like this before, and Jake's like, I guess I got crabs again. You know?
And Arn has the body of a fat mom, so he's going first.
Is Dr. Zahorian administering the vaccine? Because if so, Vince is good.
Well, you know, I think it's good that they didn't fill it because who knows what's going to happen with this fucking UFC event. And like, I don't know, like the Super Bowl already happened. Like we've already had an event with a lot of people.
Super Bowl was like 22,000 and WrestleMania each night is going to be 25,000. They're saying right now, unless they extend.
I think it's going to be hard for them to fill that, man. I think it's going to be really hard for them to fill.
Guys, Edge is headlining. It's not like they would have filled it anyway.
Oh, come on. He's doing pretty good lately.
Not a star.
Vince
Michael gets so catty. Not a star. Honey.
He said Michael
for advice on how to book an event in front of 25,000 people.
When Mike gets catty, he sounds like a 70s game show host that's not allowed to be gay. Not a star, you know.
And if you think Edge isn't a star, you should see Christian.
Exactly. Oh, I think we all just got canceled. All right, number 2,
the Good Brothers. I haven't even seen them have a decent match.
Yeah. Oh, brother.
Mike just got his new half hour right here.
All right.
Paul Heyman Lindauer. I like it.
Number 2, AEW versus NXT versus a really juicy edition of the Wrestling Observer. I don't know why I made that the 3rd option this week.
Once again, keep picking ones only you would pick.
Let's go through Dynamite first, and we'll stop after every major match. Pentagon versus Cody Rhodes. What did you think about this, Andrew, as our guest of the hour?
You know, look, Cody is the workhorse. He's on every show. He's got the best entrance. He's wrestling luchadors one week and rookies the next week, and big men. You know, he's wrestling Shaq. He's the workhorse. So I on some level, I tune into Dynamite to see Cody. So to see him wrestle Pentagon is pretty cool.
Andrew, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. All right, cut his feed.
Clearly, somebody just applied for a job at AEW.
I will get into ripping AEW very shortly. But
you're like a big Luke Skywalker fan. I feel like if you like Luke Skywalker, you like Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, look, I like Cody.
I like Cody Rhodes a lot.
Hey,
I'm more of a Han Solo guy.
I need to preface all of this by saying my dog's name is Dusty. Like, I am a huge Dusty Rhodes is my 1A favorite wrestler of all time. So by the transit, what's it called?
Transitive property.
Transitive property. I'm a big Cody Rhodes fan. I'm a big Dustin fan. So you're not going to get me to rip Cody, but there are a lot of people on that roster that I will rip. So patience.
I do like Cody a lot. I think the entrance is too much. I liked this match a lot. I don't think everybody agrees, but I thought it picked up and it got really good.
It was
the matchup.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I like the matchup until the end. I don't understand why. I give Pentagon the win. Like I understand that you made him lose in a way that's going to protect him. But I mean, Cody doesn't need this win right now. He's just, who knows if he'll even, the minute that guy gets another hosting job, he's out for a couple months anyway. So I don't know, have Penta do it. And I mean, we're going to get into this, but like the real problem is not the match itself, because I think Cody and Pentagon are really talented guys. The real problem was afterwards they ran the fucking QT Marshall angle again.
Yes.
Yeah, which is like five guys come out to chase off one guy.
I tolerated the Penta Cody match because I hoped that this was going to involve the Gun Club and QT Marshall, and I got everything I want. Look, Cody is doing. We talked about this before. He really wants to be that John Cena guy who can go in and wrestle any talent at their level and do what they do. So he tried to wrestle Penta in a lucha style match. It was fine. Penta did all of his spots. He put a hat on top of his mask. He did his slap thing 7 times. It was a perfectly good match. Cody constantly being surrounded by the Gun Club and QT Marshall. He hangs out with like the lowest of the low when he's a star. It doesn't elevate them. It brings him down. And that constantly seems to happen when he's in these positions.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. My global note to AEW is just stop putting these students on TV. Like, you're on fucking TNT, guys. This is a big cable channel. Stop putting Cody's students on unless Cody's getting a kickback for every he gets on TV.
Do what UCB does and just like make them all stage managers or something.
Yeah. Be a tree. QT should be a tree.
They had two dark shows this week with a total of 29 fucking matches.
I like that though.
I don't. You're wrong. You're so wrong.
No, I'm not. YouTube is free. It's you could just watch hours and hours of nothingness. You don't have to though. It's YouTube. It's like, hey, tune in if you want to. These guys are going to practice.
You degrade your stars by putting them on there.
But anyway, guys, we got to keep going. We got to keep going.
Moving.
Next up, we got the Young Bucks in a backstage segment with Don Callis. I thought it started out kind of slow, but I really liked what Don was saying at the end. I thought the New Japan stuff was really effective because it was true. What did you think about this, Mike?
I don't like calling them chumps while they have the titles, the New Japan thing, like all.
You don't like that.
All this useless continuity. Like, tell me stories within your own fucking company, please. Close the forbidden door and just tell me good stories. They're champions, so him calling them chumps just didn't work for me. I will admit I'm starting to like Don Callis more because I was comparing him to Paul Heyman, which isn't fair. Paul Heyman transcends professional wrestling. Don Callis is professional wrestling, and he's pretty decent at it.
Yeah.
Scott, I disagree with Mike. Do you?
There was a few hiccups in this where I went, that didn't sound great. That didn't sound great. But overall, it did its job. And I think especially later, the segment really did its job. But, yeah.
Robert, Zach, Andrew, anything to add?
Young Bucks need to not be allowed to talk this much with quasi-unscripted promos. The whole thing about them pointing out that Dom was faking the eye thing, and he was just like, yeah, I was faking it. We completely dropped that whole angle. Thanks for coming.
That was rough. That irritated me.
That was super weird. Yeah. I get the idea of him trying to motivate them to be what they were in another company, but to Mike's point, I always bring this up. They assume that you've seen everything these guys have ever done. We're not all Excalibur. We don't remember every moment of everything that's happened.
Yeah, but doesn't like the human brain just make connections? Like, I don't think it's an assumption. I think it's like that happens in everything, doesn't it? Don't you watch things and they reference other things? And if you don't get it, you get it enough because you exist on planet Earth.
Like the whole year of the Young Bucks is based on being the elite, which not everybody watches. So if for me, I tune into AEW and the Young Bucks are baby faces one week and heels the next week based on something that happened on Being the Elite. I didn't see Being the Elite, and the announcers aren't given the note to reference or catch me up on Being the Elite. So I'm completely in the dark as a viewer for most of what the Young Bucks have done this year.
See, listeners, Andrew and I have both been brainwashed by Stanford. So when you take your normal hatred for everything I say and spread it around to both of the former writers.
Karpeles, I'll use a term. We got to precondition the audience.
Oh, God.
And Scott, here's the thing. Harriet Winslow was the elevator operator on Perfect Strangers, but when she got her own show, Family Matters, with the Winslow family, they never mentioned Perfect Strangers again.
I
hated that. I thought the Jeffersons should have mentioned Archie. It would have been a fucking better show.
If it was Dick Wolf, he would have had them all fucking connected to make that Dick Wolf money. You know, like all those fucking Chicago Fire shows. Everybody's related to somebody on another show. It's. I mean, it is good business. I think the only time it really works to do something outside of it on a big scale is like remember when Undertaker showed up to the Lesnar Velasquez fight and like got in his face. That was great because it got covered by 10 different. You know, like, I mean, look, we saw with the Shaq thing, like not many people cover that. And that's a big time celebrity.
It got covered. I mean, it
didn't get covered the way they wanted to, man. I mean, they didn't pop $1 million for that episode.
It was big news. Cody fought the guy from the General commercials. Like, that's huge.
Well, and the the NBA show is pretty big. I don't know. The Young Bucks, to me, I'm not a fan. I don't enjoy their work. They're terrible actors. They're smaller than me, and I'm tiny. I'm just not. I don't buy it. I'm not. I don't buy it.
Yeah. As far as like as far as the Shaq inside the NBA, I just don't think. I think nowadays you have to see like what. It's like what audiences are going to travel. You know what I mean? It's like it's not as important nowadays to like get a celebrity that's the biggest celebrity in the world. You almost want to get the celebrity that's going to complement whatever the fuck you guys are doing. I don't know.
Like Bad Bunny.
Like Bad Bunny. Jade Cargill versus Danny Jordan. Jade won. Does anyone have anything to add with this?
We probably have to move on, not to go back to Shaq, but that whole story got screwed up because Brandy got pregnant and they had to swap in another. Like there was no heat in the whole match. There was no heat whatsoever. So that's one of the reasons it fell flat. But they got the clip of Shaq falling through the table and inexplicably being completely knocked out by it. And then the ambulance thing, the whole whatever.
That was a disaster, but I will praise AEW. This putting Jade Cargill on a pre-taped show where you can edit out any potential glaring botches was a smart idea. I said she shouldn't be on TV for a while after the tag match. If you were going to put her on, I'm glad you put her on in a taped match where you can just let her highlight who she is, look impressive, and move on.
Andrew, I have a question. I'm sorry, Mike. 1 second. Yeah. Do you think that the reason maybe the Shaq match didn't do that well, and look, this is probably not true, but do you remember when they played AEW Dynamite right after that playoff game and everybody
like Fat Jericho, you're going to say?
Yeah. Do you think Fat Jericho is the reason that Shaq didn't get ratings there? Because I do know some people, you know, who didn't know AEW saw that and didn't get it. I don't know. What do you think?
I just think it's hard not to come at it from the WWE side, which is like a match with Shaq, which they teased a million times and it never happened, should have been on some kind of bigger show than giving it away for free. And I don't think they have the marketing arm to promote it the way that needed to be promoted. It was a wrestling angle that didn't have a lot of heat, and they have a small audience right now. So in terms of bringing extra new eyeballs, I think people were just waiting for the clip on Twitter. They were just waiting to see it on Instagram, on Bleacher Report. They don't need to tune in to watch the whole wrestling show. That's
also, Andrew, would you have made Shaq a heel like they did? They put him in the heel role here, even though he was a big celebrity.
That's the other thing that's so interesting, because WWE, even though they make their legends and make their guests, they say that their goal is to make them shine. They oftentimes don't do it, but it did strike me as odd that like that segment did not end with Shaq looking triumphant.
But I think they figured that him disappearing would protect him just having magical disappearing powers.
And then to let the tape get out of like him exiting out the side door, like they just have a lot of quality control issues that look, they're 2 years in, so whatever, but the TNT exec says you're getting Shaq, what do you want to do with them? And that's what they decided to do. Like that's where the whole thing falls apart. Like if I was in that production office, if I was showrunner and they said, hey, you get Shaq, what do you want to do with him? I mean, I would come up with something better than that.
And does anyone else find it sad that Red Velvet was just in the audience this week? Like that she had this one moment of someone.
She looked like she was. She looked like she was doing a pub crawl. You know, like she was wearing every like college pledge shirt I've ever seen.
That's what
it was
saying.
Just the weirdest thing that, like, okay, so you replaced Brandy with her, which is fucking weird on a fetishistic level, but they did that. And then, all right, so now she's in the mat. Now she loses. She didn't get any rub from it or anything.
Nothing. They just wanted. It was just there was no psychology. There was no heat. And Shaq. Yeah, exactly. Nobody won. Nobody came out of it looking better, except for
and Cody. Cody just needs to go heel at this point because they make it seem like it's a privilege for you to be seeing him on television and all of that, when it's just no. He's just a wrestler on a wrestling show.
Next up, we have MJF and the Pinnacle. MJF cut the promo. It was an absolutely phenomenal promo.
Tully was great too.
Tully was great as the mean old bastard setting him up. He didn't at all the problem sometimes when he speaks for somebody, it kind of becomes the Jake show. And Tully really knew his role here. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. What did you think about this, Andrew?
Tully's the other reason I tune in. Obviously, and we'll talk about this when we talk about my show, but I am Mr. Get Off My Lawn. The 80s were the best, mark for anything Jim Crockett Promotions, world class. So the Tully stuff has just been, honestly, legit the reason I tune in. And so, to see him wrestle, last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, even though he was just taking offense from what's the little guy's name?
Child.
Yeah, but yeah, I love it. I love Tully being in the J.J. Dillon role of the sort of the seasoned veteran, dirtiest sort of manager in the game. He'll be pulling legs on the apron. He'll be handing them brass knucks. He'll be cutting getting them over in the promos. I just love Tully has 30 years of pent up. I'm the best at this and nobody let me do it for 30 years. He has that all pent up in his system and he gets to get it out every week on TNT 30 years after the fact. So anything he does would be considered great, really fun in my book. It just so happens that everything he does is excellent. So that was cool. MJF crushes it on the mic as usual. I would have liked to see them pass the mic a little bit in Horseman style. A little bit. And my biggest gripe of the whole thing is that if Sean Spears is going to be in a main event faction, somebody needs to teach the guy how to dress. The spread collar thing is 1989.
It looks like in a community theater production of Swingers.
For some reason, wrestlers love to do the spread collar over the suit jacket. And
because they're fucking... Their gains are so big, bro.
Yeah,
their
because
gains
they're
are so
hot.
big.
People don't get this. When you're hot, you just want to fucking have your titties
sweating.
out.
I get it. They're delta sweating. But the black dress shirt and I make a lot about appearance, but the black dress shirt spread over his jacket kind of ruined it for me. But he in the ring, he does come off as a bit of a badass. They just need to heat him up a little bit.
Next up, we have.
Oh, I gotta talk about this, man.
This is
the reason I'm gonna watch this company for a long time. For the stuff they do wrong, this is what they do right. WWE has no one except Heyman on the level of MJF on the mic. NXT certainly fucking doesn't. This is what they do the best. I love that it was just MJF because it felt like a mirror to when Jericho introduced the Inner Circle, where he did the roll call and everything. And I love that segment. And so this felt like the mirror version of that.
And going after Jericho over their haha comedy bullshit was brilliant. Because that's been our criticism the last couple months is this is kind of like Mickey Mouse Saturday Night Live shit.
This
and now
was
MJF is taking that.
This was them totally redeeming the criticism I had last week for how none of it really made sense. The way that the booking's gone for the last couple months, it all made sense. Max hit it out of the park. I'm wildly proud of him. He almost got me to believe Sean Spears belonged in that group. I mean, no one's a miracle worker, but he came very close.
Dude, I'm telling you
him,
guys, Sean Spears was great because you're going to get the MJF kicking somebody out of the group, and that's going to be worth his whole entrance.
No, I think Spears is just going to be good. I think we're going to be surprised by him.
He's
swear.
taller than you think. That's the nicest thing I can say about Sean Spears.
He's one of the physically biggest guys in AEW. Sorry.
The pinnacle should be
edit that out.
I don't love it.
The pinnacle should be a main event faction, but then Sean Spears will be on YouTube every week.
But I guess my question too is, they're 5 guys plus Tully, right? Are they exclusively just going to work with the Inner Circle, which now is back to being 5 guys, right?
Yes.
It would be great if they could do War Games, but I guess WWE owns that.
Well, they're doing something like
they're
that.
doing Blood and Guts, and it just is War Games
last year.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. But once that story runs its course and they blow it off, where do you hopefully you can get these guys. All I'm saying is a 5-man, 6-man faction is tough to do when you don't have rivals. So.
Well, that's why you got Jurassic Express and Bear Country.
Yeah, well, they sowed the seeds of discontent between them as well, so we'll see.
All right, well, let's harp on that. Matt Hardy, the Butcher, and the Blade versus and the Inner Circle. What? Inner Circle versus Jurassic Express and Bear Country. This is kind of all over the place. These WrestleZone reviews.
Does it say on there we don't have to talk about this and can move on?
I liked it. I did like it though.
All right. Well, Scott.
It's
Scott
for the children.
I like 2 fat guys in singlets. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
John Moxley and Eddie Kingston cut a promo backstage. It was a really good promo. My only problem is, Eddie Kingston quotes Tupac, and he said, "Cowards, cowards die 1,000 deaths." But then he beats the Good Brothers through a small package. I'm like, it's just the weirdest. Like it's just, why would you cut that promo if that's how you were gonna win?
This was the night of the roll-ups, baby.
The night of the roll-ups. But Mox made me pop when he talked about Botchamania, and it also made me pop thinking about how into it must have Luke Gallows been watching it backstage, where he's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna make so much more money on Botchamania."
You mean
talking Shopomania?
Shopomania, talking Shopomania.
Just botched the title of.
It's not like he was on this show promoting it a couple months ago or anything.
I'm sorry, talking show. Yeah, you guys host this fucking show. All right.
I love that they spend a minute talking about googly eyes.
No, I didn't like it. Wasn't good though, right? Like, they're great, and we know they're the shit. They're the best. This didn't really have much of a narrative. It was like, go be yourselves, and then they were trying to be funny, and it didn't really stick.
See, I disagree. To me, it felt like the old NWO promos where they were just kind of like shooting the shit, and whatever winds up happening happens, where it's clear these guys like each other and they're having fun, and the audience can see that, as opposed to trying to hit a line and look at the camera. So they can get away with that kind of nonsense where most can't.
I'm okay with it. It is a little backward storytelling in the sense that this is the friendship that we were told they had that we never got to see before. Like, I feel like if you saw some of this leading up to their feud, it would all mean something more, but it still works to me because they talk like people. There's so few pro wrestlers that talk like human beings, and these guys do with each other, and it's great.
So did you want Eddie to give Moxley a sword like Sheamus and Drew to really cement their friendship?
It would be kind of funny to give him like a chain or something, or like
also,
Scarface poster for his bedroom.
We know Eddie Kingston at least owns one sword.
All right, folks. Next up, we have a promo by. Well, he will outwork anybody. He will not out-promo anybody. Christian Cage. Let's start out with you, Robert. What do you think of this?
I love Christian. He's a fantastic guy. I loved working with him. I think he's an amazing in-ring performer. This was every reason why Christian's main event babyface pushes always failed, because they gave him a microphone, and by default, he makes Edge look like the more charismatic, natural babyface. This was the strangest thing that they let on television because it didn't do Christian any favors. It was him calling out Kenny Omega in a way that it was like the number 16 seed calling out the number 1 seed. I don't think anybody watched this and thought, yeah, Christian's a legitimate threat. He's coming to take everybody's spot and he's here. It was Christian's a nice guy. I'm glad he has a job. I look forward to seeing him wrestle, and I hope he doesn't get hurt.
Scott?
Yeah, I wrote down, even though he doesn't blink, this was pretty good. I thought it did what it was supposed to do, but yeah, there was squinting, but not full closure of the eyes. It was fine. It was fine.
He does look like he just lost his contacts before every promo.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of those guys, like it's like he wears glasses, you know, and then when he take them off, he's it's like in a cartoon, they got like tiny little dots.
And he did lose all of his WWE contacts when he signed a contract with Tony Khan. But I think my problem is, yeah, one, he's just not a star. He just is not. I mean, they fed the Christian to the lions.
Yeah, here comes Caddy Mike again. He is not star quality. I know material.
But Greta Garbo, now that's a star. But no, my problem is the whole outwork everybody. Like, just say it's fake. Like, you could say you're a better wrestler, but saying you're a better worker, or it's just fucking dumb. It's just stupid.
You know what they should do to save it? Because really, he hasn't been in the ring forever. So that's my one issue with it, is he's saying these things we don't know if he can promise. Like, if he said it 10 years ago, I go, oh, okay, yeah, he is going to have some amazing matches. We're not really sure if he can have amazing matches anymore. So when he's saying he's the best worker, to save it, like, they should start airing promos where he gets there at 7, you know, and makes coffee for everybody. And he's just like, he's like employee of the month, best worker.
Brandon Cutler just giving him dirty looks from across the work
yeah.
All right, guys,
like, who is
we gotta
this
get
guy?
we gotta get to this Goldberg roast because we only have Andrew for so long. So let's just speed through the rest of Dynamite. Just interrupt me if you have something to say. John Moxley and Eddie Kingston stole one from the Good Brothers through a small package. And at the end of the match, there was just a bunch of people yelling at everybody. And then Tony Schiavone and Sting with Darby Allin. And, you know, again, the segment ended with everybody yelling at each other. And Jake the Snake calling somebody a weenie, which was more disturbing than if he had called him a cock or a dick. A weenie out of Jake's mouth just sounds real eerie.
Steve Borden, can you come to Jacksonville, paint your face, and get in your gear, and then just stand in the ring this week? Okay, and then not do anything, and then next week, same deal. Come do the whole face paint, get in your gear, come in the ring, and then just stare at the camera. Like, what kind of usage is this? I mean, everybody rips on WWE for how they used Sting. It's the same thing. I mean, his match at Revolution was awesome, but otherwise, it's been a massive ball drop.
I'm convinced that they didn't realize they could have rented that snow machine and they bought it. So they're trying to get the most use out of it. So Sting has to be on every single week. The strangest part of this was Brian Cage at the end turning into Vince Vaughn and Anchorman with the "I hate you, but I damn sure respect you."
But I respect you. And then Taz is like, "What are you doing?" And then the whole crew just leaves. Like, that's the thing. They have such camera blocking issues. Again, I go back to like nerdy production stuff. They have massive camera blocking issues.
Well, they don't. You know,
people
it's
just
so great.
walk off camera.
These guys, they think that like WWE, the reason that like WWE sucks, it's because like, which I don't think WWE sucks, but they think it's because, you know, they have writers or producers, and it's like, no, they have a crazy guy controlling the writers and producers.
Yeah.
Who that's where all the decisions go. It's not like if you're on a show, you know, it's where the showrunner leads it. It's not the, you know, the cattle. You know, leading the rancher here. That was the worst analogy in the world. Angelico versus Rey Fenix. I enjoyed this match. And finally, we have Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa in an unsanctioned lights out match. I fucking love this match. I thought
This is the thing classic about AEW is you tune in, you see a bunch of like amateur hour stuff, but you leave every week seeing something awesome. Every single week, there's at least one thing. and in this case, this week, 2 things that you can really hang your hat on and be like, these guys are on a different level than WWE right now creatively. But you have to sit through really like eight segments of improv shows before you get to a couple, 2 segments of headliners.
What I'm really concerned about is that, Miro and Kip talked about having this match with Chuck and Orange, but they did not mention the arcade machines. And I fucking swear, if we get this match and it's not the arcade lumberjack that they promised, I'm going to be pissed.
Jesus, you sound like Tony Khan on AEW Dark Elevation.
But they are the company that would promise that and then not deliver. But they did promise it us last week. So,
well, it seems like they're responding to all the criticism online of Miro being a clown, and they're trying to pivot him back to being a serious ass kicker. So he's saying, Kip, we're buds, but I'm gonna fuck, they're planting the seeds that Miro is going to.
No, I know that, but they promised arcade machines.
I know. We want to see the arcade games, but I feel like we're going to see some kind of heel turn here with Miro.
Okay, but do you think they're going to give the advertised match or not?
I would think so. I mean, they gave us the orange juice match.
I mean, they technically did or didn't give us an exploding death match.
Doesn't Mike sound like he's talking to his dad, and his dad's like, I fucking tried, okay? No, we had the arcade match, but we had other things. There was other things.
Scott, we both do this podcast because we're not able to talk to our dad right now.
They all, to Scott's point, though, they also gave us a women's match with blood, and like that was insane. So that's definitely not a critique I have of them of saying they're going to do something and not doing it.
Oh, and just want to give everybody info at home. Scott's father's absent because he's passed away, and Mike's father's absent because I don't know, he's busy right now. Next up, NXT in-ring segment. Finn Balor. I really dug this. Are you guys excited about this takeover? I think it's going to be better than Mania.
Yeah, I've seen Dan and Dad's dad have a conversation, and it's like they're both hosting this podcast.
I do think both nights of Takeover are probably going to be better than Mania, and I am looking forward to them. Also, this was like a really there wasn't a lot of guys on this show because of like a COVID outbreak.
They made the most of what they had. Scarlett was a star in this opening promo.
She was awesome at the end too.
She was really good with the weird seductress thing. I think that's a great character for her. She elevates Karrion Kross, who he has a great mystique until he talks, and then he just kind of sounds like
she's Karrion Kross, huh? Okay, all right, I'm gonna go kill myself.
Hey, that's my gimmick, Scott. Walter Tommaso Ciampa is going to be phenomenal. That's going to be
match of the week, maybe year,
maybe. And I love the Bronson Reed. I know I'm skipping around, but I love Bronson Reed ripping that jacket apart. I thought that was like a really funny, like babyface thing to do for a fat guy.
Oh, that's my favorite thing. I mean, I've been that guy. It was fucking awesome. It immediately set up the feud of why those guys are fighting.
Worst thing on NXT by far, Kyle O'Reilly's promo from his car on the screen, where he always sounds like he's like a 15-year-old kid who just got grounded and he's fighting with his parents. There's nothing convincing about him as an ass kicker. We were friends, and then you did this to me, and I'm going to come after you. Like, I sounded more intimidating than Kyle O'Reilly did. I want to see him get the shit beat out of him. And then wrestle a match.
He sounds like me calling out AEW plot holes.
Tough crowd, guys. Tough crowd. So, Robert, what do you got this week? AEW, NXT, or a really spicy edition of the Wrestling Observer?
Yeah, I'm never going to pick Observer.
Okay, all right.
No.
NXT or AEW?
Look, I think AEW, for all of the glaring faults that they had, that MJF segment was awesome. The main event was probably the best thing I've seen this week. So I'm going to go with AEW.
Andrew.
Same. I haven't seen 2 women be that brutal in a wrestling ring probably ever. So that, on free TV, that was incredible. Not only was there blood, but they were doing, I mean, that one that one spot, I through the table, I thought somebody was legit but had a broken neck. So I thought that was incredible. I think they made a star out of Dr. Britt Baker, as if she wasn't already a star, she is now. I would put the full force of the company behind her on the female side. That was incredible. I go with Dynamite this week. Also, I didn't watch NXT.
I feel like this is going to be a royal flush. But Scott, Mike, you guys both have Dynamite, right?
Yeah, it's always Dynamite. And also this week, I mean, aside from the Sting segment, I really loved all of it. Genuinely. The Sting segment, and then the QT thing didn't make sense either.
Also, all you weirdos who think that we're like pro WWE on this podcast, this is like the 5th week in a row where Dynamite has won.
Thanks for the check, StonyCon. I appreciate it. My pool is going to look great.
I'm gonna go AEW. That main event was fantastic, but yeah, now it's about follow through. It's like, all right, you showed that they could be main eventers, so you have to do that more, and you have to feature them on TV more. This was the first ever AEW Dynamite, I think, that had 2 women's matches on it. That's awesome. Do that more,
And in the main event. I think overall AEW needs to cut that roster down by at least 20%. Stop debuting new people every week. Get rid of the students and like take this fucking thing seriously. You're on cable. You're on huge. That's a big deal. And you're throwing students and guys that are green as goose shit on TV. Like,
get rid of your friends and family.
Yeah, more Dr. Britt Baker, less Dr. Luther.
Yeah. Give me the best 20 guys and girls and go with that.
That's the Dark Order.
I mean, that is my thing. If you're going to have these YouTube shows, then relegate them there, but don't mix them. Don't put Angelico on your main show and act like I've also seen his dark matches.
Well, guys, we're at our main event, and we and like the man we're roasting, it promises to be short, hopefully sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, the roast of Bill Goldberg. Before we go into this, I watched like shoot interviews like all weekend about Bill. And Bill he always dresses like a guy who's like still goes clubbing with Jay Leno on the weekends. Like he has this wild hogs version of what like cool dad should look like.
Yeah, he's always at like a Planet Hollywood red carpet event.
yeah. He was like, I remember when he was talking, I didn't include this in the roast, but he was like, he was talking about that movie Santa's Sleigh that we reviewed on the Patreon. Where Goldberg plays a Santa who kills a bunch of people, and he was like, I was doing this movie, it was Brett Ratner's assistant, and I'm like, well, that's not a thing. Like, that's not an impressive thing that it's somebody's impressive assistant, Bill. That's not how it works.
When you walk around Vegas and you walk around the casinos and they have all those gaudy stores, and you see like, oh, Ferrari has a clothing brand. That's Bill Goldberg. Like he goes shopping in the Ferrari store.
It's like the pre-roast roast. I like it.
Yeah, well, we're gonna dip our toe in before we jump into the deep end. Zach, who do you got first?
Robert.
All right. Roast of Bill Goldberg. He's bald, he's charismatic, he's Jewish, and he has changed the face of professional wrestling. But enough about Paul Heyman. Let's talk about Goldberg. Goldberg matches are a lot like losing your virginity. Tons of hype, a quick jackhammer, and it's all over way too soon. Goldberg was called the discount Steve Austin, which isn't an insult to Bill because he would never pay full price. I joke, but it was a big deal growing up having a Jewish wrestler to look up to. Before Goldberg, all we had was that time Richard Belzer got choked out by Hulk Hogan. Goldberg ended Bret Hart's in-ring career by giving him a concussion. They knew something was wrong with Bret when he started being humble and gracious. Goldberg refused to wrestle on Yom Kippur because he needed that time to atone for all of his shitty matches. Bill Goldberg.
Sandy Koufax.
Sandy Koufax would be a better wrestler than Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg came back to wrestling for his son, who just wanted to get him out of the house. Goldberg is a hack who used more talented people to get over in WCW, achieved a level of moderate fame, and got way too into cars. He basically stole Jay Leno's gimmick. Goldberg's streak was ended when he was zapped with a cattle prod. Watching a Jew get zapped with a cattle prod is the only way Dusty Rhodes could come. Eric Bischoff claimed Goldberg is only wrestling for the money and not for his love of winding up in a wheelchair with CTE. Goldberg had an embarrassing match at Super Showdown against The Undertaker, which has been called the worst human rights violation to happen in Saudi Arabia that hour. Lastly, Chris Jericho believes Goldberg's 173-0 streak was a hoax, which is why no one should ask Jericho his thoughts on the Holocaust.
Right. Zach, who do we got next?
All right, Mike, you're up next.
Okay. I'm so excited to be roasting one of my favorite wrestlers. Oh, wait, we're doing Goldberg. I thought it was Gilbert. I fucking love Gilbert. Gonna be honest, I'm phoning this one in, but I figured that's what Goldberg would do. The greatest insult I could make is to put forth any effort. The only thing on a bigger tear than Goldberg in the 90s was Kevin Nash's quads, but at least those had a few good years in the ring. He's always made me proud as a fellow Jew and as a lazy piece of shit. He was a wrestler that really made you believe that he only knew two moves. He actually used the third move against Brett, sweet concussion music. He goes against if it wasn't for him kicking Brett, though, Brett would still be wrestling. Yet, yes, Brett is 63 years old, had a bunch of strokes and cancer, but he'd still be wrestling. It was the kick that ended him. The kick. He goes against wrestling tradition by not protecting his opponents and goes against Jewish tradition by having a tattoo. His matches really captured the spirit of Hanukkah because they're only 1 minute but feel like 8. He answers the question, what if Stone Cold had only ever wrestled with a neck injury? He got beat up by Chris Jericho in a legit fight. The only other person that can say that is any grocery store employee that enforces a mask policy. That's it for me.
Oh, that's great.
All right, Andrew, you're up next.
I'm very excited about this. Thank you guys for having me again.
Thank you for doing this, sir.
In Judaism, it's considered a mitzvah or a good deed to give charitably. And no Jew embodies that spirit more than Bill Goldberg. I mean, if it wasn't for Bill Goldberg, Bret Hart never would have received his disability check from Lloyd's of London. Bill said he came back to the WWE in his 50s because he wanted his young son to see him wrestle. And you thought Woody Allen was a bad father. Topical, Allen versus Pharaoh on HBO. Bill's legendary win streak in WCW famously came to an end after Scott Hall shocked him with an electrical cattle prod. Even more shocking was after the match when Eddie Kingston jumped on top of him to save him from further electrocution. Yeah, it's true. Goldberg famously did the job to a cattle prod, much like many of his family in Auschwitz.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right, I'm bringing the heat, guys. I'm bringing the heat. Goldberg used to play for the Atlanta Falcons, the team that made the Dirty Bird touchdown dance famous. In wrestling, the Dirty Bird is when Coco Beware used to use Frankie on ring wraps. That one's for Dan. Every time he wrestled in WCW, Goldberg was escorted to the ring by police officers. It's the most work cops in Atlanta have gotten in the wrestling business since they were asked to perform a wellness check on Chris Benoit. And lastly, Goldberg was a contestant on season 3 of The Celebrity Apprentice. You know, just in case you were wondering how Gary Busey sustained his traumatic brain injury.
That's great. Thank you, Andrew. That was awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
All right, Scott.
Lovely. All right. Goldberg is the Sean Spears of Spears. He is the worst Berg in the history of Bergs. Even the Hindenburg lasted a minute before it blew up. Goldberg and iceberg. What is synonymous with sinking ships? Wrestling's definition of a jackhammer is the same as Urban Dictionaries, I found out. It is the go-to move for the inexperienced and inept. How is it an undefeated streak if he gave up during every match? Goldberg matchups are a lot like grinder matchups. Someone's getting fucked in the ass and quick. I assume it's quick on that there.
It depends on the night, but yeah.
At Super Showdown, Goldberg did more damage to Undertaker's head than chain emails, fake Facebook posts, and I assume QAnon. Hanukkah is 8 days in honor of the 8 days Goldberg works a year. Goldberg has squashed more Atlanta wrestlers than Mrs. Cornette. Okay, that's the last time I'm ever going to mention her.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, it's
not even close.
This is how much Goldberg sucks. All right, even to this day, Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar was the absolute low point of WrestleMania 20. The high, a future murderer posing in the ring with Eddie Guerrero and the people he murdered. We go back, we go, no, don't erase that, Peacock. Erase the Goldberg match. Before Eric Bischoff had Rosie and Jamal as 3-minute warning, he had Goldberg as 3-minute boring. And I know that joke doesn't work well, but neither does Goldberg. That's it for me.
All right. Let me step in, bringing it home, guys. Goldberg took forever to sign with Vince McMahon. It's weird to think of someone as too good for the WWE, but not good enough for the XFL. Before Goldberg started in wrestling, the jackhammer was just something they used to dig out Gorilla Monsoon's son.
What the fuck?
I don't know, guys. Come on. He called his autobiography, I'm Next, The Strange Journey of America's Most Unlikely Superhero. A straight white guy who made 10 times the money Booker T did while working a fourth of the time. Sounds pretty American to me.
Oh, my God.
Goldberg takes his charity work seriously, volunteering for the Tampa Wounded Warriors, opposing to the Atlanta Wounded Warriors, which were the people that paid to see him wrestle. Goldberg also spends his time visiting children in the cancer ward. Talk about booking the ultimate quick finish.
Oh, my fuck.
Scott Hall used a taser on Goldberg to end his streak, but then only 3 weeks later, Goldberg used it on Scott to wake him up for a flight. And 4 weeks after that, X-Pac used it to make China come. Goldberg and Brett won the tag team championships in WCW as the always complaining about the Road Warriors. Could you imagine that booking committee? Who's next? Well, since you already got 5 minutes offense in, it really should be me. He was known for a great spear, but not great enough to go in the 10th round. Now the Goldberg squash is what happens when Jeff Garland fucks his wife. When I saw Goldberg at the Rumble, I was like, nothing's changed. This is the same guy, the exact same guy that got his ass kicked by Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho now, the guy that looks like Bret Michaels ate Sebastian Bach. Apparently, the story is that their fight started when Goldberg asked Jericho who's next, and Jericho asked Goldberg, "Where were you on the morning of September 11th?" And that's it for me. That was the roast of Goldberg. And you folks, you know, we kind of picked somebody who kind of walked on the straight and narrow for professional wrestlers. So let's switch it up. We're going to be doing the Hardy Boys next week, both Matt and Jeff. And man, there is a lot of material there. They do not have a Wikipedia page. They have literal rap sheets. So check it out. It's going to be fucking awesome. Andrew, thank you so much.
I'm relying on you to give us some Michael Hayes jokes on that next week.
Andrew, tell us about the season of Dark Side coming up. I know you guys are doing Collision in Korea. I can't wait wait
So-
for that one.
Here's the thing. Dark Side of the Ring has done 2 seasons. In later this year, season 3 is coming out. What I did is a new series called Dark Side of the Ring Confidential, where we added 30 extra minutes of content of roundtable chat, director's cut commentary to 8 of the episodes from the first 2 seasons. So it's Evan and Jason, the creators, at a table with Conrad Thompson, before and after each act of 8 of the episodes from the first 2 seasons. So we did the Gino Hernandez episode was our premiere. Just on Tuesday was Montreal Screwjob. Next week is the Von Erichs. We're doing the Road Warriors. We're doing Owen. We're doing Herb Abrams. And we basically expand on all of the sort of unanswered questions that you have when you watch a documentary, when you watch one of these episodes. You get the creators of the show after each act answering all the questions you have coming out of each act of an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. We answer a lot of questions. We've deleted scenes. We have guests. We have special guests. We have Blue Meanie talking about Owen. We have Tommy Dreamer talking about New Jack. We have on the Screwjob episode on Tuesday, we had Mike Chioda, who was supposed to be part of the finish, so he told that story. It was incredible because I mean, for my professional hours to be consumed with talking about the Von Erichs, like on the phone with my rights and clearances lawyer to see if like we have to fair use the scaffold match clip of Jim Cornette falling and breaking both of his legs. Like that was stuff I got to do professionally. That was a thrill.
It must be like awesome. Honey, I'm watching this wrestling for work. Take care of the children.
100% my experience. And just, you know, like I'm talking to network executives like, hey, can we pay a couple $100 for this picture of Jericho and Lance Storm as the Thrill Seekers from Smoky Mountain Wrestling? Like these are annoying tasks you have to do making a TV show, but they were about wrestling. So ultimately it was like the most fun I've had making a TV show probably ever. You guys would love it.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Evan and Jason are very respectful of the business, and they're very open and honest about these crazy, most of them are true crime stories. A lot of them are very tragic, and they're very very open and honest about these stories. And just watching the episodes, you'll learn so much more about things like Owen and New Jack and, you know, the Road Warriors.
I love that this was the most fun you had working on a wrestling TV show when you worked on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, Andrew, can you give us one? Number 4, creative has nothing for you. This is where Rob, fills us in with a depressing story of his WWE past. You did come on the show and told us about getting thrown into like a craft service table and being stained and then going on a private plane and Undertaker yelling at you in front of everybody. It's in the archives. Check it out. But what is there another one that was particularly mortifying while you were there?
Yeah, well, let me just say, Dark Side of the Ring Confidential is on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on Vice. We have 6 more episodes to come, and then the 3rd season premieres. So definitely check that out. Also, the episodes post on YouTube after that, so look for that. And thank you.
It's the best show Vice has ever done, for sure.
100%. Thank you for letting me shamelessly.
Absolutely. Although, runner-up, did you ever see that Vice? This is real sidebar of sidebars, but have you ever seen that Vice documentary series about that guy? He thought he was the devil and then killed all those guys and buried him in his backyard.
Kevin Sullivan?
That was
Goldberg? I thought we were done talking about Goldberg.
It's not. There's a few I could tell, but the most probably depressing moment was, look, when you get that job, you're signed to 13-week contracts, and every 13 weeks you kind of get reevaluated, and they kind of let you know if you've been renewed and you're going to keep going or if it's going to end. And so the end of my first 13 weeks, Michael Hayes called me into his office, and he was like, Will, we're picking up your next 13. But it's not like I'm running down to HR telling them we need to keep this kid. And that was it. Go back to work. Like that was the positive reinforcement you got at that job. Was like,
if you laughed, would he laugh too, or would he be like,
what the fuck? What do you let? You know, he would immediately take it as like I'm being disrespectful to the wrestling business. This is tackle football on concrete. I'm just saying things to give Robert.
That triggered me right there. Hearing tackle football on concrete.
Tackle football on concrete. They say that in your interview, but yeah, that was it. I mean, I was in like 3 seconds. I was super jacked to like, oh, I'm getting another 13 weeks to this guy has it out for me. Not only because I'm Jewish, but also because he doesn't like my work. I'm just kidding. And I'm, immediately he kind of set the groundwork for I'm on shaky ground and, destroyed my confidence. Again, I was 25.
Did you feel weird as a Jewish guy there? Because I've actually heard that a couple times. Like Robert had a story last week about the $1 Million Man trying to convert him to Christianity.
I've heard those stories. I didn't really too much. I mean, the high holidays came around and, I became pretty good friends with Brian Gewirtz. He's like, dude, look, man, if you want to take the days off, take the days off, but they're going to shit on you for it. But he's like, I say, fuck them. I take the days off. So like, I kind of had Brian kind of took me under his wing in trying to help me navigate those things. I didn't really witness a lot of that, but when my first day I started with Ranjan Singh, Dave Kapoor. We walked into the writer's room together as 2 new hires, and Michael Hayes goes, well, look, it's Harold and Kumar. So like that's how we started.
Wait, he thought you were Asian?
No, because Kapoor isn't it? Kumar.
Did he say Howard and Kumar, or did he
No,
call you Harold?
He said Harold and Kumar. Like I was Harold, and Dave Kapoor, who is,
I get that, but how are you Harold?
I was just the white guy.
He thought he was being creative because his first thought was like, hey, look, it's the Jew in the brown. It was just like something so basic.
I'm impressed how culturally relevant that reference probably was at the time. Like that was within the last 15 years.
But he clearly didn't see the movie. He didn't know that Harold was played by John Cho.
Right.
No, because children might be in that
Keenan
theater.
and Kel. All here we go.
To him, Harold was a white guy. Yeah, exactly.
Robert,
it's the ambiguously gay duo. That's Patterson and his partner. Oh, sorry.
Robert, before Andrew gets out of here, do you have a story to share?
You label this as out to each other the most depressing moment. And there was a story. I almost hesitate to tell this, but I'm going to tell it anyway because screw it. So. Because you said the high holiday thing, I took off for the high holidays, so all the other writers were going to OVW after a SmackDown taping. I was flying back to Stamford to fly home, so I flew back on the plane with Cole and Taz. So it's just the 3 of us on the plane, and they pour this huge glass of Johnny Walker. They put it in front of me, like, all right, we're all going to start drinking, and they're pounding them, and they're sitting there talking, and they're like, oh, tell us about yourself, and just shitting on anything I say. I went to University of Florida. That school fucking sucks. I'm like, all right, cool. Taz was like, you see this map on the screen of all these towns? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I wrestled in every one of these towns. You know what that means? I'm like, no. He goes, it means jack fucking shit. I'm like, all right, cool. And then
I fucking hate myself, bro.
And then there was a moment where Michael Cole, I will never forget this as long as I live. He was sitting there holding the glass, apropos of nothing, just stares at me and just goes, my family thinks I'm a loser.
Which is true. I can vouch for that.
What,
he used
really?
to bring his son to Little League. Yeah, I never played Little League, but I'd hang out there, And and he'd
You're
bring
like 21 at the time?
adopted son to Little League.
That sounds so creepy, Scott. Yeah, I hung out there, until I started getting a rep. Sorry, Scott, what were you saying? So you hung out with Michael Cole's son?
No, but I knew of Michael Cole's son, and the kid was very embarrassed of his father, and he was adopted. That's all I know.
I hope that's the headline that travels from this podcast. Is
Me too.
Michael Cole's son is embarrassed of him on all the dirt sheets.
It's gonna be like when Michael Cole reads that headline, it's gonna be like Finn and Karrion Kross from last week. Like, what took you so long? You know.
This was when I was 9, though, so the kid could have just been like, "The Rock called him a hermaphrodite. I'm embarrassed."
Right.
Like, I don't know.
The nice thing about Dynamite is we get to watch Taz's kid be embarrassed of him on live TV.
All right, Andrew, thank you for coming on the show, buddy, and
Thank
check
you,
out
guys. Thank you,
check
guys.
out both Dark Sides. It's a fantastic show. Thank you, Andrew. Come back again.
Thank you. Dark Side of the Ring Confidential, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. on Vice and YouTube. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, see you soon.
Appreciate you.
Number 5, we watched Monday Night Raw. Well, I know Robert and I did. Mike and Scott, did you watch Raw this past week? We won't.
I watched Raw.
You watched Raw. Okay.
I watched enough of Raw.
I just.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry. No, I really just want to talk about one thing, and it's this Braun Strowman, Shane McMahon program. It is.
Oh, can we get Andrew back? Because
what is this? Is like pure. I've gone back and forth. First, I'm like, this is going to be really bad, and now I'm like, this is phenomenal wrestle crap. This is going to keep every week because they got to keep upping. They already beat Braun with a camera, poured green on him, had Shane go through a table. They're going to have to one up themselves. But what is this story from? Robert, you had a theory. I was talking to you about it. Why do you think this is playing out the way it is? Why is Shane the heel in this situation?
Oh, I'm convinced that Vince saw Revenge of the Nerds on TV and realized Braun looks like the big dumb guy from the jock fraternity. I think this was
Ogre.
Ogre. This is some just weird, stupid thing where they're like, all right, we need to make Shane the heel against Braun. Why? He calls him stupid because big guys don't like being called stupid. And that's all you need. But the fact that this has props, like the hopscotch and the green, like a bucket of green slime, this just feels like no bad idea was rejected. And they're going to do this for the next several weeks. Shane's promo a week ago, where he seemed really coked up and sweaty and illogical in what he was saying, was I told somebody, I'm convinced that Shane has a drug problem and Vince is doing this to shame him, to make him see what he looks like on TV and be like, you need to, like, this is his intervention. Like, you need to get help.
Oh my God.
What is the explanation for the green goop?
Someone saw the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards this weekend.
I mean, was it a tie-in? Because you can't call it slime. Because I worked at a place where we would slime kids, but it's like copywritten by Nickelodeon. So you'd go like, you got fucking boogers on you, you know? And the kids go, okay.
Yeah. Is it like green,
is,
envy, or what? Do you think that could be it, or am I just looking way too deep into this?
Yeah. There's no symbolism on Raw. I mean,
I would love
crazy
that.
You asked us to do this, and I couldn't, because the Snyder Cut came out today of Justice League, and I can't do Monday Night Raw and that. It's just
how is the Snyder Cut, by the way?
I'm 2 hours into it. It opens with Superman yelling, and then the whole world can feel him yelling.
That sounds like working for Vince, right, Robert?
Pretty much. The weirdest thing about Raw this week was it's like even they're embarrassed about Fastlane. They gave you Riddle, Ali, and the New Day Hurt Business, which were both title matches, which should have been at Fastlane. Drew is facing Lashley at WrestleMania, which they just announced with a graphic.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Rather than even make it the
so
Sheamus match. And then AJ and Omos challenge for the tag titles at WrestleMania, even though there's a pay-per-view this Sunday. Like,
I wonder, how could they make this even more anticlimactic? Just have I don't know, that guy Scott Stanford just read off the rest of the card. I know, I'm serious, because that was, they just made no decision on that, and they've been doing a pretty good job building Lashley and Drew. So I was pretty surprised by it.
I think they got worried about the on sale, and they felt that they needed to get a main event announced this week before the pay-per-view. So they were just like, all right, fuck it. We're just going to announce Lashley and Drew so that we have something to sell.
And then they push back the on sale.
They pushed back the on sale because I think they tried to go full audience. But because they threw this Brian Roman match at Fastlane, they can't advertise Roman and Edge as a guaranteed main event. They need something to sell the show, and the only thing announced for WrestleMania is Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks.
I actually think they pushed back the sale date because they needed to do less seats, right? They needed to rearrange the whole thing. They wanted to do 30-something thousand, and they're only going to do 25. But then people say it's because they might not sell that many tickets, so you start low and then act like seats opened up if you do sell them. Boys?
Here's here I had two other notes besides Scott's riveting take on the seating. Do we, I think like Keith just have Keith Lee join the Hurt Business and then do the Rock Farouk storyline, but with Lashley and Keith Lee, right? That would get all those guys over. I don't know. That's my thought. And another thought that I had was New Day wants to turn heel, right? Because they were having way too much fun on social media after winning the tag titles. Like they were acting like Seth after they won the tag titles. So I'm wondering if they're jockeying to go heel and go against a face Hurt Business. Am I thinking about this more than they are? That's my question.
Way more. Yeah.
I think they're having fun with the internet. Look, New Day was a great heel faction. I think they were underrated as how talented they were at being antagonistic heels.
No, they did a good version of what Seth's doing now.
Right, but they'll never properly turn them heel because they sell too much merchandise. But I think that the backlash of people getting mad that they were tag champions again, because when you see the strings, the audience gets mad. And it's clear that they were like, we don't have anything for AJ to do at WrestleMania. We need to do something with Omos. All right, let's hotshot the tag titles and then move on to this completely different feud.
Yeah.
Can you do AJ versus anybody? I really think if WrestleMania is going to be 2 nights, at least on some level have a tournament that connects the 2 nights. I mean, fucking unify the US and the Intercontinental something and have a tournament.
Right.
Like make people give a shit on any level.
A tournament at WrestleMania. What could go wrong?
Because at least, I mean, at least New Japan connects them that the main event or the first one previews what the next night's going to be. There's reason to watch both.
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked they didn't do AJ Triple H for this Mania because they don't have another main event, and that's a match you can do at any time, and it's a match nobody's seen before. But I guess
Triple H is under way too much stress during this COVID shit.
AJ is way too short for him to sell.
Who said he was going to?
Number 6. It's time for Scott's New Japan Corner.
Oh,
Scotty.
Shit. All right, boys. Did you know FinJuice beat the Good Brothers for the TNA tag titles, right?
Of course.
Oh, you did know that, Robert?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so they did, right? But then, so get this. So then this morning, in the New Japan Cup tournament match, Jay White fought David Finlay, right? And David Finlay beat Jay White.
Wow.
So he won the tag titles from the Good Brothers, who are Bullet Club, old Bullet Club. And then he just pinned Jay White one-on-one, who is Bullet Club, and he's with God. So people think that they're
going Okada. They're gonna go Okada winning this, right?
Well, no, Okada's been out.
No, not Okada. Ospreay.
Yeah, Ospreay or Shingo. So I mean, what it is now is on Saturday, Ospreay fights Finlay, which you would think Ospreay wins. Ospreay has a broken nose, by the way. Zack Sabre Jr. broke it a few days ago, and he's still been wrestling, and it's like mangled. Yeah, he's the shit. And then Shingo versus Evil is also Saturday, and then it'll probably be Shingo versus Ospreay. I want Shingo to win, but
I didn't get to say this during the NXT.
Sunday's the final, though.
But that Io Shirai segment, I was just thinking about Evil, so I thought of his girlfriend. But that whole segment with Dakota Kai, and I thought was great.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's really all that's going on with New Japan. It's just the tournament and the final, which is Sunday.
Number 7. This is a new segment I like to call Worst of the Worst. We debate which gimmick was worked this week. Mike Awesome as that 70s guy or Mike Awesome as the fat chick Thrilla. First off, I want to start out by saying like Mike Awesome was awesome in ECW, and like WWF and WCW completely dropped the ball with this guy. There is no reason he should have been a bigger star than he was.
Well, with WCW, it's not even dropping the ball. It's harassment. It's complete harassment. They're trying to torture this guy.
Yes, the storyline is the backstage storyline is that he had heat because he beat up one of Hogan's friends, and because of that, he had to do these 2 gimmicks, which like they're both awful. I'm gonna say that 70s guy is worse only because Mike Awesome is so not into it. And it's like, he's like saying all these creepy, rapey things, but he's like, hey, I just don't say no. I don't stop. I don't, like, he's like phoning it into a level opposed to the fat chick Thriller where he's, he still had that, bit where he lifted up the road apron and he looked like he was exerting himself, even though, physiologically that didn't make any sense. Which gimmick do you think is worse, Scott?
That was so annoying. Fat Chick Thriller to me is just like that's good television. It's respectable. It's believable. Gets ladies working. It does make like the one reason I have to say it might be a worse gimmick is because they weren't treated well backstage. Like there's no way they were like, okay, ladies, and what you'll be doing is walking out. It's like bunch of fucking pranksters and stuff. They were probably pushing the ladies over guys and stuff,
Yeah.
So I do feel bad for the women involved in that. I don't know how. I guess in the 90s you just did that though, right?
I guess it's.
Like, how did they
tell me how many auditions I've gone to where it's like fat slob enters the room.
It is that they still say fat.
They don't do it as much, but when I first started, they still said it.
But like Married with Children, like if they needed a lady for a shoe store scene,
yeah,
it was probably just like monster cow woman.
that was literally these 3 women. I was like, have I seen them at Gary's shoe store? And they don't say fat slob at auditions anymore. They say Dan St. Germain type.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone said about my career.
This was so weird because in both gimmicks, like he clearly didn't want to do the gimmick because once the bell rang, he just had a regular Mike Awesome match. Like there's nothing 70s about his wrestling because that could actually be interesting. A 70s guy wrestler where he does like
he is the least confident sexual predator I've ever seen.
Well, here's why it's the gimmick actually doesn't make sense. So for the listeners, it's like he's this 70s guy. And so he dresses, you go, oh, he kind of dresses like a horseman. And, there's like these, but the error in the gimmick is, so he says something like, and then after I win, I'm going to listen to the Bee Gees. What does he say? He's like, I'll see the Bee Gees. And he's like, oh yeah, they used to be.
Mean Gene says it. He's like, do you know the Bee Gees? He's like, they're still alive.
Yeah, he's like, they're still around. And it's like, well, what is this part of the gimmick where you just don't understand time?
Well, his whole gimmick was
about like music.
His whole gimmick was he looked like an accountant going to a Halloween party where he's wearing the attire, but he doesn't understand it. And they tried with that. They gave him the Partridge Family bus at one point as part of his entrance.
Oh my God.
And remember, this was that 70s show was a huge hit at this point.
Yeah.
The fat chick Thriller was infinitely worse. And I think for the reason Scott said, as somebody who has had to do this in a production end, you're bringing in people in different towns where you have to call in and be like, all right, ladies, we're bringing you here for the fat chick Thriller segment. We're gonna have Mark Madden make fun of you and call you fat cows while you walk to the ring and stumble in as if you're incompetent while this guy pretends like he would ever touch you with a 100-foot pole.
No,
and even worse,
he definitely would.
Oh, he definitely fucked all of them. But the worst part of that was the match you sent was him against Shane Douglas, which for an ECW fan, like Mike Awesome, Shane Douglas should have been a really good match. Instead, it was peak WCW, where it was Fat Chick Thriller Mike Awesome versus Shane Douglas, where they're distracted by a Billy Kidman sex tape with Tori Wilson.
Man, I really can pick some horrors.
I took some notes during these matches, and I mean, one thing I wrote was it was amazing watching this after watching that Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match to see how far we've come. I wrote these women do not look thrilled to be in the ring. They look miserable. That's the thing. If they were smiling and they were happy, you'd feel at least okay about it. But they knew what the gimmick was. But the best line of the night was just Mark Madden going, "Sex tapes, fat women, this is wrestling." and then the other announcer goes, "We've got Booker and Goldberg again tonight."
It was Shivani. There's no life left in his body, because then Mark Madden was like, "We need to get this match over quickly because we want to get to this sex tape. So just pin him 1, 2, 3." Like, and they wonder why WCW went out of business.
Yeah, and also Mark Madden is clearly the largest person in that arena. Fucking.
But at the same time, I mean,
yeah,
those women were getting a payday, and maybe they wanted to be actresses, and now those women don't get to do anything.
Maybe a
We're like,
Trulicity
it's
ad.
degrading, and they're like, no, I want to be. I
girls-
love WCW Nitro.
One of those.
Why are
girls
they
on This Is
Southern,
Us.
by the way? They didn't talk,
Oh,
Scott.
yeah, I
they're
know why.
definitely
I know why they're
Southern.
Southern. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in Ohio.
Yeah. They needed tiny motorcycles to ride out on.
Well, it's just that promo that he cut was just so sad. As that 70s guys was like, "No, can't say no. Got to keep hitting on these women." Like you could see his soul leaving his fucking body as he cut that promo.
Yeah, and there was also he still did like a power bomb table spot. It's like there's something 70s about that.
So I guess the consensus. So I'm going to say that 70s guy is worse. Robert is going to say Fat Chick Thriller. Scott, did you say you like that 70s guy? Zach, who do you got, Fat Chick Thriller or that 70s guy?
Which one's better or worse? The worst one?
Which one's worse?
The not Fat Chick one.
Yeah, that's the worst
Yeah,
one. 'Cause
yeah.
you go like, who's the worst friend? You know, the guy who's always banging fat chicks, or the guy who's like constantly bringing up, the Bee Gees.
Well, here's
How pissed are you if you're...
The real question, Dan, is one of the gimmicks I could just say the name of out loud anywhere, and the other one I feel like I have to whisper. So,
and how pissed are you if you're Disco Inferno watching this fucking gimmick come out?
yeah, because it's literally his
Fuck
character.
fat chicks. Disco.
All right, number 8, Show in Hell. This week's edition, QT Marshall versus Marco Stunt on AEW Dark Elevation. I'm going to start out by saying this was not. I'm going to say some positive things first, just in case you guys think I'm a real asshole. Paul White is pretty good at commentary. He's not great. He's probably not worth the cash, but I thought he was fine. I mean, I thought he was okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the only positive thing I have to say. I thought I had more. I really did. Mike, what did you think of this?
I mean, this was, I think he, for a first time, he's okay. He's like his attempt at conversational, like trying to be that former athlete, anecdotal, which was really tough in this match for him to relate to either of these guys because, he is a wrestler and they're not. But
oh yeah, another positive thing I'll say, for the first time, I believed in the selling of both of them because I could believe realistically that those guys could beat each other up.
yeah, that was what was amazing about this was that this was, I mean, that's the thing with Marco is any match with him is a big man, little man match for the most part, unless someone is, Marco's size, which we've not seen yet. But it is that thing of this is where this belongs. And if this is where these guys were only, and they also weren't on TV Wednesday, I'd be fine. Leave them here.
Yeah, it's like a guy with QT's body who's confident enough to not wear a shirt is also the guy who's confident enough to fight Marco stunt and think he's cool for doing it, you know?
That is true. His face.
I liked it. I liked the match. I really did. I thought it was fine.
Shocked.
His face does not make expressions. QT Marshall's face cannot make expressions. He looks like a shapeshifter or something. Robert, are we being too kind?
Yeah, you're being. Look, I think this was a weird, like, you're trying to get QT Marshall over as this dominant threat, which makes no sense because in no other match is he ever going to be a dominant threat. Him throwing around Marco stunt doesn't make me now want to see QT wrestle someone else. Big Show on commentary for me was rough. He immediately kind of shits on this, where he's like, Marco Stunt's got no chance in this one. And it's kind of, well, then why are we watching this? He shouldn't be figuring it out while he's on television. That was my concern before. You spent all this money on Big Show and you put him in a role that he's not really good at. And you don't want to watch somebody learn on the job. And that's what you're getting here. The one advantage, the best part of this was Tony Schiavone correctly pronouncing his name as QT Marshall. He has finally solidified that he is the French inspector we always knew. And this QT Marshall bullshit was all like, that's the Mandela effect. It's always been QT Marshall. You're all wrong.
Well, here's what I really wanted to talk about. And it's something I didn't put on the 10 count, but I made Robert watch it. And I tried to make Mike and Scott watch it. I don't know if you guys got a chance to, but they run an angle where Kenny Omega beats up Matt Sydal. And then Tony Khan comes out. And, you know, as the angry owner of a wrestling and anybody who says Adam Pearce is bad from now on can go fuck themselves, because this was like jarring. Like I knew like a rich kid who had panic attacks, and he sounded exactly like this guy. It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's why it worked for me. It's you're fucking up my money. I like it. That's my parents' bedroom. I thought it was fun.
Look, this was the best thing I've seen all week. This was my markout moment by far, was how awkward and uncomfortable and forced he was in this. This is where I'm going to get really deep cut. He sounded like in Back to the Future 2 when Michael J. Fox played his son. And he's like, my father. Like, that's exactly who Tony Khan sounds like. I can fully imagine him saying, like, you know, my dad said you're not allowed to do this. This felt like he pulled a rib on himself and didn't realize it. They're like, no, Tony, go out there. You're going to be great as the authority figure.
I'm going to say that there is no coincidence that the same week he put himself on screen as a character, we got 2 roll-up finishes. Because these were the things that they said they wouldn't do. They weren't going to do these. Like,
well, no, but they addressed it. They said it's because Kenny is lawless. It's the first night of their brand new show, and he acts like an asshole and fucks around, and so he's got to nip it in the butt quick. And they said, you know, he won't do it again. You know, Tony Schiavone and Taz.
You're reporting their kayfabe news.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah, but that's wrestling now. It's all part of it. You look at the Twitter, you do the thing, and that's
no. I'm just talking about if like WWE.
Now. It's fucking.
If WWE gave that as an explanation, you would not accept it. If it was like, well, I don't want to be here, but one of the villains wants me.
I'd prefer it better than just completely ignoring, flaws or errors, or he made a promise and then he fucked up, and then he acknowledges it in a way that makes sense. That's fine.
Don't you think
you're the mark for going? He's acting like he's telling the truth. No, he's just doing wrestling storytelling.
But don't you think it goes against Kenny's character to even be on this show if he's this like braggadocious want to win titles everywhere champion?
He was on TNA. No, don't go anywhere.
Yeah, but that's to get their belt supposedly that he hasn't gotten yet.
Is Impact getting anything from this relationship?
Buried further, which is fine by me.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, Kenny and Swan. Oh, did you guys see the Callis promo on Rich Swann this week? It was like 6 minutes long. It's pretty good.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's all right, But Omega's going to be on Impact next week. He filmed like a bunch of episodes, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Number 9, Fast lane predictions. This is a good time to plug our Patreon. We're going to be, it's going to drop on Monday, but we're going to record right after Fastlane. So become a patron, especially because you get to hear the Teddy Hart roast, and then the New Jack roast is coming up, and two of those people have the capacity to murder us. So
thankfully, they can't afford the $5 a month it takes to be a Patreon member, so we're safe for now.
and look, I think I said something similar about Teddy Hart, but that's going to be the theme of our Patreon guests. We are often going to roast poor people.
All right, Fastlane. I bet New Jack saved some money. Let's start out. Big E versus Apollo. Who do you got, Mike?
I will say, I'll say Big E, but this is one of the, I think this could be DQ just because they're pushing Apollo. But if I had to pick a winner, I would say Big E.
Scott?
I have a feeling Big E loses just to set up the Mania match, which is a bummer. This should just be a match at Mania probably because they are pushing Cruz. This one confuses me. Yeah, I don't know where to go with it. So I'm going to say Big E loses and then he'll win it back and we're supposed to care.
Robert?
I think there's going to be a non-finish, and they're going to lead to doing some kind of a ladder match at Mania for the Intercontinental title, because they have nothing for Sammy to do. They have nothing for Kevin Owens to do. They have nothing for Bryan to do. They're going to throw all those guys in there with Apollo and Big E and Corbin and do a 6-man ladder match. So you got to have some kind of wacky non-finish here.
Zach, who do you got? Big E or Apollo?
I'm with Scott, I think. I think they're gonna take it off of him so that he could win at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also don't know what you do with the Apollo character if he loses this Sunday. Nia and Shayna Baszler versus Sasha and Bianca. This is going to be Nia and Baszler. Does anybody else disagree with that?
Nope.
I disagree. I think
really, you think it's going to be? Do you think they're going to have the titles?
Yeah, I think they're going to have the titles, and this is going to be the one thing that's Sasha Banks is like the only talent that should be on both nights of WrestleMania. So they defend the titles the first night and lose them, and then fight for the women's title the second night. You continue their feud, in a WrestleMania match, and then have the big match the second night. That's what I think they should do.
I think the winner here is Reginald's bank account.
Congratulations, you're not below $50. Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss. I have Alexa Bliss for this. Does anybody have Orton?
I feel bad that I made a joke about this a few months ago, that this is going to lead to a match with Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss, and I feel like I put it out into the universe. So I apologize to all of you for whatever this is going to be, but it's still going to be better than Braun and Shane. I
will say it'll be a good pay-per-view for me because I know what they're probably going to do, which is like, Alexa Bliss is going to disappear and, the Fiend is going to show up and it's going to be some spooky shit. But I would pop so hard if they just did a straight up squash match, Orton versus Bliss, and Orton just beat the fuck out of her for 5 minutes. And then the Fiend comes in at the very end. It's not going to happen.
What if they finally do what Vince always wanted with See No Evil? And Orton's like, I'm not fighting a woman. And she starts like twitching and being possessed and then gets a massive hard on, like a 6-foot hard on. And then just like beats him with it like a sledgehammer. What do you guys think?
I would love if Alexa Bliss is fighting Orton and the lights go out and it comes back and Shaq is there. And he just accidentally like wound up on the wrong show.
This is where I went now.
Well, the Fiend returns though, right? The Fiend does return here.
Yeah. Yes, it has to.
Do you think he's wait? Do you think he lost 10 pounds or gained 10 pounds? Let's do some bets.
I'm gonna say he lost because it's Mania season. I'm gonna give Bray. Okay. I'm gonna give my chunky brother some love.
I'm gonna say Tanner, but 5 pounds heavier.
I'm gonna say it's interesting that they're doing a match like this on their first Peacock show. They're advertising a guy versus a woman. Like, it would be amazing if this just does really well.
They'll run with it. Vince would love that.
Peacock needs the help. They lost what 800 million on this thing so far. They're hemorrhaging.
Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. This is the only match I think it's a little unpredictable. I'm gonna say Sheamus just because I don't think they know whether or not Drew or Lashley is going to go over at Mania. And if and they kind of need an opponent for either of those guys once that program is over. Well, what do you think, Robert?
You beat Sheamus clean on Raw to Lashley. Why on earth do I care about this match? It's
That's
genuinely
true,
the dumbest
that's
thing.
That's not what I asked, Robert.
I know it's not. My point was going to be if you have Drew lose to the guy who just got beat clean on Raw, you are killing Drew worse than they have for the last few months of booking. This has to be Drew vanquishing Sheamus once and for all, ending this go nowhere feud so he can focus on Lashley and get left laying in the ring.
It just feels like he vanquished him already.
Yeah, hasn't he beaten him like twice already?
Yep.
And aren't they like cool with each other at this point? Doesn't it feel like that?
There was that one moment I watched from a couple weeks ago where they both had the steel steps and they ran into each other. And it reminded me of the Simpson moment when all the Simpson men are together and they both put pots on their head and go, yeah, and run into each other. It's the stupidest thing.
That's how they booked this card.
All right. Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. This feels like it's gonna be Roman over Bryan clean, right? We're not gonna get this triple threat match.
Yeah,
right.
The issue is which I didn't even think of the triple threat match. I would love that. Is it going to be Edge refereeing or Jey Uso, or is it reffing or whatever they're doing?
Special enforcer, the special Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
It should be Jey. It really should be Jey Uso. That's the more interesting.
It can't be because Edge is fighting Jey Uso on SmackDown for the right to be there. They're not going to have Edge's first match back in a year, him losing to Jey Uso.
Well, he beat Orton at Raw after Rumble. I don't think you'd hurt him if you lost him. It'd be really shocking. It would get Jey Uso's stock up before Mania, maybe turn him back.
But then it's Edge making this decision to pin Bryan. Who does that benefit?
Yeah, that's what I think. The money is still them beating Bryan to a pulp and Edge saving him.
I mean, I just don't get. Yeah, I still don't understand why Edge is mad at Bryan at all. It just doesn't make sense to me. But then again, NXT has a cruiserweight championship, and their world title champion is also a cruiserweight. So what do I know?
Oh, there he comes again, Mr. 70s.
You're sizest.
Yikes, Lawrence. Yikes. I don't know. That was terrible. Number 10, mark out.
I'm contagious.
Number 10, mark out moment of the week. I'm going to start. I'm going to say my mark out moment of the week was crazy women laughing, whether it was Britt Baker laughing completely covered in blood, wearing that crimson mask, or Scarlett Bordeaux laughing right after Finn knocked her out on NXT. I thought that they both added a lot to the story, and they were both great. Robert?
So I have two. One I mentioned on the Patreon, but it still stands. Paul Heyman on Talking Smack. The random line where he talked about how Edge's best friend fled the company rather than having to face Roman Reigns was absolutely brilliant.
Also, it makes Christian's promo look even worse now.
It makes Christian's promo look even worse. Like he just cut Christian's legs out from under him. I thought that was awesome. My other kind of mark out moment, but just something I want to take a moment to say is because there's the Peacock thing that launched, which means the WWE network in America is no more. Having been on the ground floor of building that when I was at WWE 24/7, I just want to quickly acknowledge Steve Finkelstein, John Carlin, Tavis Tenney, and Liz Pena, who helped build the foundation for WWE 24/7, which transitioned into Project Evergreen, which was the code name for building the WWE network. It was every wrestling fan's dream to have this, and we all fucking ruined it. So thank you, wrestling fans, for once again making me ashamed to be a wrestling fan.
It really is the credit you'll get. Now hit the bricks.
It is really a phenomenal service.
It was such a great service, but at the same time, I've been paying for it so long that I know I should have been stealing these pay-per-views for like years. But I'm like, good. Thank God I get to steal these things again. I'm not getting Peacock. It's not happening.
I got to a point where I was like, maybe my money will make them feel okay not taking the Saudi money anymore, and it never did. But look, I mean, the fact that you all built it into something that they bought for $1 billion is pretty amazing.
And dare I say, it was like the first ever big streaming service that was functioning. Did I make that up? Can we just say that? Vince would say it.
So that's definitely not true.
Netflix. They had Netflix, dude.
Yeah, but Netflix was, I mean, weren't they mailing stuff?
Yeah, Netflix, when we were doing 24/7, Netflix was still just a mailing service.
Shit.
Well, that was 24/7.
I didn't know 24/7. I thought you were talking about WWE Network. Well, the 24/7 network is much more like HBO.
No, I'm literally talking about WWE Network. I think we need to.
Yeah, no, network was it was the first where you had a 24-hour streaming channel, that whole library of all these hours of stuff. And I'm not just saying that because, Vince is paying me.
Mike, what was your markup moment of the week?
I got to go with MJF's promo. It was awesome. It was awesome because it was the payoff you wanted from last week. And also Penta putting on the little green hat was fucking great. That just made me smile.
That made Robert so angry. Zach, you got one this week?
Women's match on AEW. It was great.
That was awesome. Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. The women's match in AEW. Also that Pinnacle promo. My God, that was awesome. And David Finlay beating Jay White, because I was just genuinely shocked.
Would we say best MJF promo yet in the company?
I think so.
It's so difficult because they're all so great, but yeah, maybe.
I mean, he got everybody over, Like, I mean, this is the first time he's really been tasked with getting, he's working with Cody, and he kind of stumbled with the Moxley program. So this kind of like him getting back to becoming a more serious character was so great.
This feud is going to be so good, dude.
It's going to be so good.
Dude, a beaten down Jericho, but then also Inner Circle, people finally being able to cheer for them and them getting their revenge in moments. It's going to be so damn fun.
I loved my favorite part was when he was talking about how young he is and how much it angers everybody that he still has 20-something years of his prime. It was fucking awesome.
Oh, he's so good. Let's talk about next week. We're going to be roasting the Hardy brothers. That's a lot of stuff, man. That's TNA. That's Ring of Honor. That's WWE. That's AEW now. I'm sure only
DWIs,
DDTs. I'm sure
child support payments.
People will only be pissed off when we go after Matt Hardy's time in AEW.
Or Dan,
mm-hmm.
Jeff Hardy's poetry and music.
Dude, man. I was watching. I kind of wanted to do this for Show and Hell next week. What we're doing instead next week, we're doing Goldberg. We're doing the Iron Sheik, Honky Tonk Man, and New Jack talking about the Chris Benoit murders. That's going to be our Show in Hell next week.
From Legends House on WWE Network.
From Haunted House on WWE Network. But yeah, you're going to be able to check that out next week. But I do want to, at some point, which we're not going to do it next week, I do want to do a worst of the worst Willow versus, I don't know, what's Matt's worst gimmick?
All of them.
Oh, come on.
Dude, they're all pretty shit. Like, he's just going through every Tiny Toons character now.
He's Montana Max?
Yeah.
When's he gonna be Plucky Duck? I think that the one that when he started in AEW was his worst. I know it was like kind of a broken version, but all that shit was pretty bad.
Awoken, yeah, he's like Awoken. He had to like change
Woken,
it a little or something.
Woken,
and what's the shirt? The shirt that he has now, the truth is the truth. What does that mean?
There is a great clip, dude. If you want to see some really fun wrestle crap, and Mike, you're gonna love this. It's Willow calling out Willow, Jeff Hardy calling out a fake Willow on TNA. It is crazy. Like it's a blast. You got to check it out. It's pure wrestle crap. But we're gonna roast the fuck out of him next week. We're going to be doing Fastlane this Sunday on Patreon, and it's going to be dropping on Monday. And after Jeff Hardy, we're going to be doing Ronda Rousey with Maddie Smith. So please, and thank you guys. Thank you, everybody who's been leaving reviews, even the ones who keep talking about how erotic we are. I appreciate them all. So thank you for listening. And you can check out my stuff on danstgermain.net. I have my albums up there. I'm going to be headlining a show in Iowa at the end of May. I'll be back in New York soon doing stand-up, so I'm excited about that. Scotty, what do you got?
Listen to my other podcast, Garbage Days with Brennan Sagalow. And if you are in the city, I'm going to be at Queen's Brewery on Sunday doing a show. So, yeah, come out.
Mikey Lawrence.
I am currently Instagramming my thoughts of the Snyder Cut. Slowly losing my mind.
I imagine you have like one of those giant, like a quill pen and a huge medieval like.
I'm sending ravens to fly with my messages of anger. But that's it. Yeah.
Robert.
You can follow me on Twitter at WWCreative_ISH.
Zach.
Wash your hands.
Wash your goddamn hands. We'll see you guys next week.
And watch Dark Side of the Ring.
That's
Vice.
right.
Confidential.
Yes.
Confidential.
Dark Side Confidential and Dark Side of the Ring. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.